Yo, Link the Boss, you ever heard about Anchor?
Yeah, I heard about Anchor. It's an easy way to make a podcast, right?
Yeah, if you got a phone or a computer, they got all the tools you need to record and edit your podcast.
And they'll distribute your podcast to Spotify, Apple Music, and many, many more.
And check this out, you could also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership.
With no minimum listenership? That sounds real good. So download your free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You're in tune to the Two MCs and a Mic podcast with your host, Link the Boss and Blam the General.
Grand Rising, man up everybody. This is Terrell. We just riding through the city of Detroit right now. About to give you a few views on where I grew up and how I grew up. Like any other metropolis, each city has its own set of pitfalls, but they also have some inspiring things that will contribute to your life if you so choose to have a progressive life. Fortunately, but unfortunately, I chose a later age to become progressive in a righteous way. I grew up in these streets, and these streets is they could claim your full life. So for all you young guys growing up in this day and age, I know it's a struggle, it's a battle, trying to find your place in this world, especially for us black men. We have so many identity crises, and trying to align ourselves with something that's going to be conducive to a good life is sometimes hard to find. But you can have the life you desire if you so choose. But you got to go through it like everybody else. And with that, I have found myself in a lot of turmoil, a lot of negative activities, a lot of things that was going to prevent me from having life itself.
It's that boss life, that boss life. It's that boss life, that boss life. We live that boss life. My enemies looking, we gon' make it. They don't give it, we gon' take it. We stacking this money, no time to fake it. We working so hard to be the greatest. It's that boss life, that boss life. It's that boss life, that boss life. We live that boss life. Yeah. I'm always at my best when I'm under pressure. Take advantage of investments, money molester. It can easily get tragic, too drastic to measure. So ask me if I let you have it, nothing less. That's what I'm saying.
Grand Rising. Welcome to Detroit. My name is Terrell, and I come to give a few views or insight into the life I've lived. First and foremost, I want to take a second to show some appreciation for Boss Life for making this opportunity available, to make it happen. Here in Detroit, we got a saying, boss up. And in this culture that we live in Detroit, everybody's on a come up. Everybody's trying to find their niche in life, trying to find their place in life. So when we use the term boss up, it simply means making whatever transition is necessary to get your life into a situation where you can define success on your own terms. Me, myself, I grew up here in Detroit from the age of 5 until my current age, which I won't disclose that information. However, I want to share some things about my life that may encourage some of you younger brothers who may be going through the trials and tribulations of life, that may encourage you to make some better decisions, that you may bypass some of the experiences I've had to experience to get to where I am today. as we all know, the life expectancy for us young black males is far below the age of 21 now. I was fortunate enough to make it to my age, and I've been through many trials and tribulations. And I'm gonna open my story up right here because this is where I first jumped off the porch at. I moved into this area, which is on the east side of Detroit, at the age of 11. When we moved on this block, a family of 4, we were the only 2 black families existed on this block, my family being one of them. And I just moved from a more urban area. I grew up in the projects, across the street from the projects. So I had street culture ingrained in me from the beginning. However, I had a loving mother. I had a protective mother. And with that being said, she always strived to give us better, to create better paths for us. And as they say, when you raise a child right, he'll always return back to his path. So here I sit 41 years later on the same porch where I've had so many experiences that led me out into a world of total chaos and confusion. And once again, I'm doing this just so you guys can see what it's like to go from a decent single, I'm going to say a decent middle-class family to the depths of hell in the streets of Detroit, and to be able to make a return, to sit back where you originated from with total peace and clarity, and with a view for the future that will be rewarding for you and whomever may be concerned. As I say, when I first moved over here, I was 11 years old, and this was a predominantly white neighborhood, a Caucasian neighborhood, and it was a culture shock. And I think this is where all the identity crisis started, not just for myself, but for any black male who has had to make a transition from an urban community into a more suburban style lifestyle. The rules of life are totally different. I had to adjust and readapt to a whole different way of life over here. And in doing so, like I say, I had a lot of trials and tribulations. As I sit here, I can want to touch on my first aspects of hustling. I didn't know anything about hustling. Like I say, I seen it from a distance. But as I lived here, I met a young lady who lived a few blocks over. Her father was a major drug distributor throughout the city. I don't know what all he may have dealt with, but at the same time, I started dating his daughter. And upon visiting her on several occasions, I would go down in their basement and work out. They had a Bowflex machine, and back in 82, 83, Bowflex was like top of the line workout equipment. And as I was down there, I would always notice large bags of marijuana. And I got the bright idea one day to take some of the marijuana. I came home and I rolled up maybe 300 to 500 joints. And I went to the high school I was attending, and I started selling marijuana. I started selling joints. And nowadays, y'all got blunts. But back then, it was just joints. So I was selling them 3 for $5, 2 for whatever. But that started my career of hustling.
It's that boss life, that boss life. It's that boss life, that boss life. We live that boss life.
All right, as I was saying, I had met a young lady who lived not too far from me, and her father was a bar owner, and he was a major drug distributor throughout the city. And in dating her, I quickly discovered pounds of marijuana in the basement. And like I said, I got the bright idea to start taking some every night. And I would come home and roll up 300 to 500 joints. And I would take them to the high school, and I would sell marijuana all throughout Osborne High School. Her father would have anywhere from 5 to 10 bags of marijuana sitting in the basement at any time, and wicker baskets of the little shots, the liquor shots. So I would go over there each night, and I would fill up a shoebox full of marijuana. Then I would grab maybe another box or fill my coat up with the liquor bottle. So from that point, I would go to the high school and I started cutting class every day. I spent from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the cafeteria selling weed, moving the liquor bottles and the orange juice. And the money started flowing in because I was living between 6 Mile and 7 Mile. And on the other side of 7 Mile, it's more hood. You know what I'm saying? It's more urban. So it's more activity go on, and it was a lot more drug usage. Me, myself, I didn't really have a preference for marijuana. But at the same time, the money was coming in so good, I could recall sitting in the basement, hiding money in the ceiling, hiding liquor in the ceiling, hiding marijuana out in the garage. And my mother never even had an idea of what was going on. So all she knew was she was getting up, sending me to school every day. But little did she know I was going in the garage, getting my sack, changing clothes to what the shit I had purchased for me and the girl I was dealing with. So like I say, over maybe a course of 6 months, I had a constant flow. And I think I may have accumulated maybe 5,000 to 6,000. And at the age of 15, and you don't have no responsibilities, that's some good money. And the thing that was different for me is that I never had to go recop. I never had to go re-up. All I had to do was go visit my girlfriend. And she was with it. And years later, I thought I had did something smooth and got away with it, but I returned back to Detroit. Me and her split up or whatnot, separated. I went to Indiana, and by this time I was selling crack. But when I come back to visit, I pulled up in their driveway. I'm driving a brand new Camaro. Her father was sitting on the porch, and he recognized me, and he was like, "Hey, Terrell, what's going on?" I said, "How you doing there, sir?" And I came and sat on the porch, tried to be portray myself as a gentleman. And he asked me about the vehicle, and I said, "Yeah." He said, "You must be selling that weed." I said, "No, I don't sell no weed." And then he said, "What you selling?" So I felt confident and comfortable enough to tell him I'm selling crack, you know. And he's like, "Damn, I thought you'd be selling weed by all this time, all the weed you stole from me." So when he said it, I'm like, damn, he knew the whole time. And he told me himself, he said, "I had cameras around my house the whole time." He said, "I watched you go in my basement daily and take marijuana." He said, "The only reason why I didn't stop you or put a stop to it is because you had enough common sense to take a little bit out of each bag. You didn't just take it all out of one bag. Every day you would take a little bit off the top out of each bag." And he said, then I started noticing my daughter. He said, she stopped asking me for clothes and shit. And I started seeing her with new shit. So I knew you was the one supplying it. So for me, it was a win-win.
That boss life, that boss life, it's that boss life, that boss life, we live that boss life.
Like anything, all good things come to an end. I was kicked out of all Detroit public schools. At that time, I was running in the streets. I had made so many connections, negative connections in the street, and the weed was my conduit to the street. So in that, I started getting involved with other drugs. And around that time, crack cocaine hit the street. And I ended up joining up with some family members, and we started a nice drug operation right here on the east side of Detroit, which eventually we'll take you through and let you get a look at that neighborhood. From that point, I eventually got involved into the violence that comes along with the game. I was involved in a homicide, and when I was arraigned on it, my parents quickly got me up out of Detroit. I couldn't even return back to this porch I was on. The love that my mother had for me was so strong that she would do anything to protect me from harm's way. So it was in her best interest to shoot me to Indiana, where she thought life was a lot more slower. And however it was, but you take who you are wherever you go. So here I am at 16 on my way to Indiana, but I got the drug game deep in my veins at this point in time. So it was just a matter of time before I started recruiting guys from my neighborhood or from my high school